Alright, welcome to your gearing up for the scuba equipment session. This is the scuba set, which comprises of your scuba diving tank, a high pressure aluminum cylinder, in this case an 11 liter or also known as a 80 cubic feet tank. Then you would have the BCD, buoyancy control device, and then a regulator set, all of which make up of the scuba self-contained underwater breathing apparatus set. First up is the scuba diving tank. This is a high pressure filled aluminium cylinder. We have steels, but they are not common in Asia. The first thing you need to check for is to make sure that the tank is within its periodical test date. So you will find a lot of inscriptions on the tank. The brand, for example, Luxfer, right, serial numbers and a few other information. This tank was manufactured in the S80 being the size, right, in terms of imperial reading. This tank was manufactured in October, which is 10 symbol 1993. Every 5 years this tank goes through a hydrostatic test. It must be current. This tank was just tested and passed the inspection, so you get the 9 of year 2020. So the next time it is due for another test will be 2025. Right? So if you have a tank that is not within date, then it should not be used. The next very important thing to check is for the seal. There's an O-ring here, a rubber black seal. This must be in place. If it is missing or you inspect it and it is broken or torn or a little bit frayed, then this should be changed. Alright? This is a yoke valve. In Europe or in other diving applications, we have a DIN valve, which is a different fitting altogether. A DIN regulator will have a different fitting which screws in. The application for this will be explained to you during your course. We are using today a yoke valve. Alright? Now the other thing to look out for is if you see labels like this on the tank, it has special gases in it, and if you are not certified to use a nitrox tank, for example, then this tank should not be used by you. Okay? Anything that doesn't have any label would by default have only air, or should by default should only have air inside the cylinder. Alright, the first thing you want to do is to put up the BCD. The BCD would have been checked before and tested. Make sure that it is in good working condition before you actually take it diving. Now this is the way to assemble it. Now this particular model, the Aqualung Wave, has got one cam band, which is sufficient for you to secure it. The BCD goes on the same side as where the tank valve orifice outlet is. This is where the air comes out from. You can crack it open and hear the air. This is where the air comes out from. So on the same side, the BCD will be in the front here. Alright, so I'm going to turn it sideways so you can see it clearer. We unvelcro the strap, but we do not undo all the webbing. We just take it out from the last loop. If it is in the last loop here, you just take it out from the last loop and that's it. Do not undo this. If you undo this, then you have to follow the diagram here, how to string your cam bands back correctly. Securing is very important, because if the tanks and the BCD is not secured properly, it can come off halfway through the dive while you're diving and cause you to lose your balance while you're underwater, and it's not good for the system. Alright, we just slide this over. The BCD plate or soft pack in some other brand cases will have to be parallel to the tank valve orifice outlet, so they need to be parallel. Alright, we drop this in. How far this goes will depend on the individual person's torso and height, but you will have to find this out yourself. While you're diving, if you look up straight and your head hits the tank valve and your regulator assembly, then this tank is possibly too high, meaning the BCD is too low. So in this case, it seems too low. A good guide to start off with, before you fine tune it according to your neck and body length, would be the base of your inflator valve to be about the same height as where the air orifice outlet is. Right, so this is way too low. I'm gonna bring it slightly higher. Approximately there, you can see they are almost at the same length. We check that it's parallel in place again, and just give it a little support there. The ball of your palm, put it here, pull this tight, give it a little bit of a winch there, tighten this so that it locks it down and it doesn't loosen. Put this in the last loop and give it a hard yank. If you don't have the strength to do it, then you can ask for help. But after it has been done for you, you must make sure that this tank and this BCD is secured. A good way to check it is to lift up the BCD. If you have a carrying handle like mine has, you carry it, watch your toes. If you don't have the strength to lift up the entire assembly, then you put your whole body weight down, making sure that this does not slide down at all. If it moves, this is not tight enough. Okay, you have the whole assembly there. Next thing you want to do is to put on the regulator set. The regulator set has got 4 hoses. This is the diver. This is considered the front, and the tank is at the back. The second stages of the regulator system should come over the right side of the diver in this case. Some places have got, or some personal sets have got different configuration, so you have to go along with that appropriately. The left side will have your inflator hose, which is the supply hose to pump air into your BCD, and then your submersible pressure gauge on the left. Alright, now this yoke screw will be to remove the dust cover. Now this has to be replaced immediately after use, because the dust cover protects the first stage regulator from water entering. Alright, if you don't cover this and salt water splashes and it ends up inside, this spring loaded mechanism will start to corrode, and over a period of time will start to give higher pressure than what is desirable and can require a full overhaul or servicing. Where the air comes out from and where it's supposed to go in to the regulator to supply air to the hoses, those two must meet face to face. So in this position, you will have the 2 breathing second stages over the right side of the diver and the other 2 hoses over the left. You want to do this finger tight, alright, not with 2 hands. The seal of 200 bar, when you turn this on, is going to lock it down further. So if you use your full body strength, if you're very strong and you tighten this fully, it can lock this down and make it very, very difficult for you to open at the end of the dive when you want to disassemble the set. Alright, so we just tighten this finger tight. Alright, if you are not very strong in your hands, then you can use your entire hand. But if you're strong, then just use your 2 fingers, the thumb and your index finger, and just give it until it won't turn. That's it. Okay, the first hose you connect would be your inflator hose. This is a ball bearing swivel catch. Alright, as you can see, you try to put this in, the male and female will not click. You have to pull the sleeve backwards, let it slide in. It needs to be straight in. As you pull this in, it goes in, slides in, and then you give it a further click. There, you pull this out and make sure that it doesn't come off. It is secured now. You need to make sure that the hose is also secured all the way streamlined, so that nobody catches it or it doesn't catch any part of the coral reef or even on the boat. Alright, the next thing you want to do is to check your pressure gauge. Now this is a dual gauge. One gives you your depth reading, which is optional if you have a dive computer. The other one is a pressure gauge. A very important step is to check that the pressure gauge must sit at 0 when there is no pressure. We have not turned on the pressure, so the gauge has to read 0. If it is reading 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 bar or any form of reading, there is an error in this gauge, and this can be dangerous because if it sits at 40 bar and you end the dive at 50 bar, you technically have only 10 bar left, which is very dangerous if you have only 10 bar left and you're still deep underwater. So make sure that this is 0 error. In this case it is, so it's good to use. We take this gauge, all right, we face it away from us. High pressure is going to come into this hose. The rest are all low pressure. It goes through the regulation. This is the first stage of the regulator, where high pressure from the cylinder goes in. It is reduced pressure in all 3 hoses except for this hose. This is not reduced because we want to see the exact pressure that the tank has at all times. So although it comes up from the first stage, it bypasses the function of the first stage regulation. We turn this away, we do not look at this, we turn this away, we turn this on gently, just one quick crack. You will hear the pressure going into the hoses with a hiss. You heard that? Alright, the hiss has to stop. I just cracked this open. It's not fully open yet. This has to be fully open in order for you to go diving. Alright? The hiss has to stop. If the hiss continues, then there is a leak in the system. Then you shut this down and you call for help. Do not investigate high pressure leaks. They can be a little bit daunting if an O-ring gives way. So you would see that the high pressure tank of 200 bar is what you want to start with. Anything less than that, you should get the tank changed. Alright, so this is just past 200, which is ideal. If you are an imperial person, then 3000 psi would be the equivalent reading. Alright, now no hoses are to be left dangling, so we will want to secure this hose here. You don't want this dragging along the coral reefs and damaging the reefs or snagging your equipment. So this goes on this D-ring on the left side, so it's ready to be read at any time. Now we move on to the right side, the breathing hoses. You have one primary second stage, and then you have an alternate air source option, which in this case is in the design of an octopus. We have different kinds of alternate air sources, including integrated inflator systems called air 2 or air sources, or even independent redundant pony bottles, right? Like what I'm going to show you now. This is also a form of an alternate air source. This is independent, not part of that. Alright. Now, these both regulators must be breathed from. The mouthpieces must be checked that they are not broken. You must make sure that there is a cable tie and these mouthpieces are secured. A lot of people are missing this, and while they're diving, the mouthpiece remains in the mouth while the second stage regulator falls out, causing them to breathe a lot of water and gives quite a panic situation. So make sure that the cable tie is in place, the mouthpieces are not broken, and the mouthpiece is not easily coming off. Alright, before you breathe this, you give it a quick purge. One short purge, don't waste your air. You need all the pressure for your dives. Make sure that you clear any dust, or if there's any insects sleeping or hiding inside because of cold storage, then they come rushing out. You have to breathe this regulator for real, not just to purge it and test it. Make sure that it breathes well. If it is not breathing smoothly or the resistance is high, then you have to get your supplier or the instructor or the dive professionals on board to have a look at it before you actually take it diving. The primary regulator goes into your mouth. The secondary, however, does not go into your mouth. It must be placed in a very secured, visible position, ready for any emergency use. Now in this case, our system is very easy. It's a bungee cord where you just squeeze in the mouthpiece. It's secured there. In an emergency, your buddy will just pull this quite easily and breathe from it when he or she needs the air. Another way of securing it for the aqualung system is you can actually tuck it inside here, which also makes it very visible and easy to see. Alright, this stretches out easily and the buddy can easily pull this out and breathe from it in any emergency. I'm just going to leave it here inside this sleeve, which comes as part of the BCD. Alright, now the final thing that you want to do is to make sure that the BCD inflates and it stays inflated, that it is not leaking. So what we want to do is to give it a pump. There you go. See, there's no more air now because we only cracked the valve open just now. So if you had gone in diving, you breathe, halfway you're going to run out of air. So this valve must be open fully all the way to the end. Alright. The open and close indicators are at the out skirt or the rim of the hand wheel of the valve. If you forget, alright, then at the end of it, you just give it a little bit of a close. We don't want it getting stuck in the open position after the dive. That happens sometimes. Now you pump this BCD full, alright, until you hear an escape valve kicking in. You see, if the BCD continues to inflate, it will not explode and burst. It will overinflate through one of these valves. There's one here in the Aqualung wave system, and there's another one at the bottom here. Alright, so one overpressure valve, two overpressure valve, and the third one is integrated at the top of the inflation device. So you'll hear this there. The first one that kicks in is this guy. Okay, let it hiss. Okay, now we want to let it sit for approximately 2 minutes, making sure that this BCD is still well inflated and not leaking in any way, because if it is leaking, then you will not be able to stay afloat in a situation where you end the dive or you start the dive and you have to float and wait for a short while. You don't want to start the dive kicking or end the dive kicking trying to stay afloat. You want to be relaxed. Okay, so that's basically the entire equipment assembly video. Alright, if you have any questions, then divert that please to your diving instructor or your dive professionals on board. Thank you.